What's up, everybody? It's Greg from Sleepers Media. College basketball is less than 1 week away. I could not be more excited. If you know me, you know that I'm a gambler, and you know I love college hoops. And I thought, what better way to kick off the season than to fuse those two things together and do 68 predictions heading into this college basketball season. Before we kick things off here, please click that subscribe button to get everything on the Sleepers Media channel, including Drunk Scouts, our series where we do drinking games while breaking down prospective NBA stars. You'll get weekly podcast episodes with the Sleepers Podcast, where we interview players, coaches, media members from around the world of college basketball, and much more. Subscribe. Don't take food from my family, in the words of Carter Elliott. All right, let's get into this. Number one, Blue Bloods are back. Last season, some of the Blue Blood teams had a little bit of a down year. I'm looking at you, Duke and Kentucky. This year, they're going to be back atop the mountaintop. They're going to make things interesting in their conference races and ultimately in the NCAA tournament. I love the talent. I love what those coaches that are historically great programs have done with their rosters heading into this season via the transfer portal. Expect teams like Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, UCLA to be driving the story of college basketball this season. Number two, there's going to be more balance in the top 10. This isn't like last year where it was Gonzaga and Baylor versus the field. This year, there's going to be legitimately 10 to 12 teams that I think could take home a national championship, and ultimately it's going to make for a really interesting, really fun season. Number three, this freshman class, historically great. In fact, I have 4 freshmen that I believe are going to receive All-American honors, either on the first team or the second team this season. More on that in a little bit. Number 4, guards across the country are getting a little bit of a bad rap. I think guard play is better than people expect it to be. The story all offseason has been how good the centers are. You've got the Gonzaga front court. You've got the Big Ten monsters at center. There's not really a ton of guards people are excited about. It's more breakout candidates. I think people are sleeping on a few veteran guards that will take home some individual accolades this season. All right, let's move into some conference-specific predictions, starting with the ACC. Prediction number 5, Paolo Banchero will win ACC Player of the Year. I absolutely love Banchero. I think he's a monster. Is he a guard? Is he a center? I think the answer is yes to both of those. He can board, he can lead the break, he can create shots off the dribble. He's going to be the best player on Duke, and he's going to be the best player in that conference. And because of that, number 6, Duke is going to win the ACC, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close because of how good Banchero is, but also Trevor Keels, AJ Griffin, Mark Williams is back in the front court. The only question I have with Duke is who emerges in the backcourt, but they have some prestigious talents that will have a chance to just take the reins. And regardless, I think Banchero might be the answer anyway. He can play guard for this team and play it at a really high level. I expect Duke to run away with the conference. The team that will compete a little bit, prediction number 7, Florida State will finish second in the ACC. I absolutely love this incoming class with Jalen Worley and Matthew Cleveland. They also added Caleb Mills from Houston. Anthony Polite is back, and they have like 5 7-footers. They just need one of them to assert their dominance just a little bit physically. And I think the rest of the ACC is a little bit down. Florida State will give Duke a run for its money, ultimately finishing second. Prediction number 8, Buddy Boeheim will lead the ACC in scoring. I don't love the Syracuse team at all. They lost a lot up and down their roster, but Buddy Boeheim is back and he can really fill it up. Don't be surprised if he averages upwards of 22, 23 points a game, ultimately on a not so great Syracuse team, but he's going to be electric to watch. Number 9, North Carolina. I'm sorry, Tar Heels fans. I think you're a bubble team this season. I'm not buying Caleb Love. Everybody says last season was just, a freshman year where he'll get a lot better. I don't think he's necessarily guaranteed to make a jump. Brady Manick and Dawson Garcia, the 2 big additions, don't they play the same position? Brady Manick looks like he's been on a chunky noodle soup diet that Sean May put him on for 6 months. Dawson Garcia is the best player on this team, but ultimately I don't know that it's going to matter much. I think this team's going to struggle to make the NCAA tournament before ultimately making it and bowing out in the first round. Number 10, Virginia will miss the NCAA tournament. They just lose too much. Hauser, Huff, Murphy are gone. Kihei Clark is back, but are we really sure that Kihei Clark is any good? They also have Carson McCorkle, who looks like he's been dressing up as Kyle Guy for Halloween for like 15 years. I think this is the first year that Virginia really takes a step back and ultimately misses the NCAA tournament. Let's move to the Big Ten. Number 11, Illinois will win the Big Ten. They were hungry for it last season. They demanded that they should have been the champs. This is the season I think it comes to fruition. They lose Ayo Dosunmu, but Andre Curbelo and Kofi Cockburn are the best 1-2 punch in college basketball. Expect them to take home the Big Ten regular season crown. Number 12, Michigan will finish the non-conference schedule undefeated. They have a pretty easy slate up front. The only game that I think they won't be heavy favorites in is North Carolina. You already heard my thoughts on the Tar Heels. Michigan's gotten off to hot starts the last 2 seasons under Juwan Howard. This year's going to be no different. I think they'll be a bona fide top 10 team as they head into conference play. Number 13, Jaden Ivey. Everyone expects him to make a big leap this season. He's not going to be a first-team All-Big Ten player. I'm sorry. I said it. Somebody had to. I think Curbelo is actually going to steal some of the sophomore star headlines from Jaden Ivey. I just have too many questions about this roster. I don't question Ivey's talent, but is he the best player on the team? Is it Travion Williams, who came off the bench in their secret scrimmage? Is it Zach Edey? Can those 3 even play together? Is Ivey supposed to be facilitating for other guys? I just have way too many questions and not enough answers. Ivey's going to be really fun. I think he's going to be more fun than he is good. Number 14, EJ Liddell will lead the Big Ten Conference in scoring. Ohio State's not going to be very good. Dwayne Washington is gone. Maybe they're a fringe top 25 team, but Liddell is going to have to put up numbers, and he's prepared to put up numbers. You saw a guy in Luka Garza take huge jumps in points per game from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. Liddell's done the same from year 1 to year 2. Now it's time for one more massive leap, upwards of 22, maybe 23 points per game this season for Ohio State. Number 15, Michigan State will finish top 4 in the Big Ten. Everybody knows Michigan, Purdue, Illinois are the teams to beat. Then there's kind of flirtations between, is it Maryland? Is it Ohio State? Is it Indiana? I think it's Michigan State. I think this team answered a lot of questions in the offseason. Max Christie's going to be a superstar from day one. And I think the Spartans ultimately will be a factor in the regular season conference race. Number 16, Tom Izzo will win Big Ten Coach of the Year because of everything I just said. Izzo's going to take home some accolades. It's been almost a decade since he has won that award. This team slept on. They're not a preseason top 25 team. If 2 weeks left in the conference season, Michigan State's only a game or 2 back from first place. They have a lot to play for heading into March. Izzo's finally going to take home some hardware that maybe he should have won a couple years ago when they were really, really good. This year's about resurgence for the Spartans. Izzo will get some hardware. Number 17, Maryland's going to be a bubble team. Sorry, Terps fans. I'm not buying what you guys did this offseason. Fats Russell, really inefficient. Is he the go-to guy for this team? Is it Eric Ayala? If it was Ayala, I'd feel a little more confident this team would be a guaranteed NCAA tournament team. But, you know, I don't know what this roster is going to look like. They lost Wiggins. They lost Morcell. It really relies on Fats Russell too much for my liking. He's been highly inefficient and very erratic the last couple of seasons. I think Maryland will end up making the tournament, but it's going to be dicey. Number 18, Minnesota is going to go 0-18 in the Big Ten Conference this season. I'm sorry I said it. It actually stung for me to even just mutter those words out loud. Richard Pitino's gone. Jalen Suggs was never there, remember, because Richard Pitino couldn't give him a phone call. Minnesota's not good. They have so many bad players. They have a bunch of new faces, but none of them are particularly talented. The rest of the Big Ten is tough this year, even the lower half. Teams like Penn State, Northwestern really did upgrade. Nebraska has a lot of talent this year. I don't think Minnesota's even going to be competitive in many games. I think ultimately they're going to be the worst team in the Big Ten in a very, very long time. Let's move to the Big 12. Number 19, Texas will lose their first game to Texas Tech this season. Chris Beard made all the headlines. He left one rival for another. The bigger program, the Texas Longhorns. I don't think that's lost on Texas Tech, and I think this roster is still extremely talented. That's the number 1 game that I'm circling on the schedule heading into this season. Could not be more excited for it. Think Texas Tech pulls the upset and reminds Chris Beard what he left over in Red Raider country. Number 20, Marcus Carr, Texas new guard, will be the Big 12 Player of the Year. I absolutely love Marcus Carr. I know a lot of people say he's put up empty stats up to this point in his career. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. Last year, Texas had one of my favorite backcourts in the country. Andrew Jones and Courtney Ramey are back. I think Marcus Carr is an upgrade from what they had last season. I think he's going to put up the numbers and lead Texas to the success needed for him to take home Big 12 Player of the Year. Number 21, Chris Beard will win Big 12 Coach of the Year. For the same reasons I just said Marcus Carr will lead his team to success, Chris Beard, if he can get Texas into a tie for first or above that, he's going to win Coach of the Year in this conference. I love the Texas roster. It's going to take him some while to figure things out. I think maybe the non-conference is a little bit more of a struggle. Conference play, I think things are clicking for them heading into March, and Chris Beard wins the award for Coach of the Year. Number 22, there's going to be a tie for conference champs in the Big 12. I love Texas, Kansas, and Baylor. All three of these rosters are conference champion worthy to me, and I don't see a lot of separation between them. I think ultimately this is going to be one of the most highly contested races to a conference championship this season, maybe the most fun to watch race in the country, but I don't think there will ever be a team that separates from the pack, and ultimately those three teams will tie for the Big 12 conference title. Number 23, speaking of those three teams, Big 12 is going to get 3 2 seeds this season. Because it's going to be so competitive, I don't think any team emerges enough to get a number 1 seed headed into the NCAA tournament, but there will be 3 2 seeds from the Big 12 and 3 teams that ultimately could be looking at a Final Four run come March. Number 24, Kansas will go the furthest in the NCAA tournament of the Big 12 teams. I love this Kansas roster. Ochai Agbaji, Joseph Yesufu, Jalen Wilson, David McCormack. They just got a lot of dudes. I didn't even mention Remy Martin, who has won Big 12 Player of the Year in a lot of people's polls. Kansas has all the talent in the world. Bill Self, little overdue to actually bring home some hardware in April. Maybe this could be the year. I think they're the team that has the most likely opportunity to win come March. Number 25, Adam Flagler is going to lead Baylor in scoring this year. People are really high on James Akinjo, the Arizona transfer. Adam Flagler, to me, is a guy who really showed flashes last season as the 4th guard behind Maseo Teague, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell. This year, he's going to get a chance to be featured. I think he's going to take a massive jump in points per game, upwards of 15, 16 points per game for a Baylor team that will be very competitive and very fun to watch. Let's move to the Big East. Number 26, someone that isn't Villanova will win this conference. If you know me, you know I've been down on Villanova heading into this season. It's not because Jay Wright isn't a great coach and they don't have some good players. I just don't think they have the high-end talent that Villanova teams of the last decade have had. I also think this Big East conference is a lot stronger than people expect. Butler, Xavier, Seton Hall, UConn, all teams that will challenge Villanova. Ultimately, I think one of them will surprise and take home the regular season conference crown. Number 27, Jermaine Samuels will be Villanova's best player. Sorry, Colin Gillespie, I'm not buying you as the best guard in the country, let alone the best player on Villanova. Think you're a game manager. He's a good floor general. I get it. All of the typical white cliches about Caucasian point guards do apply to Colin Gillespie, and he's a very good point guard at that. However, Jermaine Samuels is more talented. He's going to put up more points per game. He's going to be Villanova's go-to guy, and ultimately, I don't think either of them are good enough to be the best player on a conference title team. Number 28, the Big East will get the most teams in the NCAA tournament of any conference. That might seem a little shocking, but top to bottom, I love the Big East this season. Again, Villanova, Xavier, UConn, Seton Hall, St. John's, Providence, Butler, Creighton. I think Marquette could even maybe sneak into this tournament. I know it's supposed to be a down year, but Shaka Smart's there. And I actually do think Shaka's going to be coaching like he has something to prove this season. Daryl Morcell, the transfers into Marquette. I just think out of that group of 9, a minimum of 8 teams make the tournament. And I think that will be the highest number in the entire country this season. Number 29, Jaden Taylor will win Big East Freshman of the Year. If you're saying who, go look up some Jaden Taylor highlights. He's an incoming freshman at Butler University, scored 25 points in their scrimmage this week, was absolutely electric. I think he's going to be a go-to impact guy from day one for this Butler team. And number 30, Zach Freemantle from Xavier will win the Big East Player of the Year award. He put up some big stats last season. I think this season he has a little bit more of a jump to make, and ultimately, kind of like Mamoukalashvili was for Seton Hall last year, he's going to be an all-around guy who can do everything for a really good Xavier team, who ultimately will be crowned Big East Player of the Year. Let's move to the SEC. Number 31, Kentucky will win the SEC. John Calipari has had some ups and downs the last few seasons. Just like he was one of the first people to pioneer his way into the one-and-done era, he's kind of done the same with the transfer portal. He's gone all in to a level that most other teams haven't. I love Kellen Grady. I like Severe Wheeler. Oscar Tshiebwe is going to be really good. CJ Frederick's going to be a great floor spacer. I think these guys fit together more than any other team that's relying on transfers does in the country. Kentucky's going to be really, really, really good because of one other player I'm about to mention in my next prediction. Number 32, TYTY Washington is going to be the SEC Freshman of the Year and also a top 5 freshman in the country. He can do it all. He's one of the best guards John Calipari's had, and I know he's had a lot of great guards, but this guy's a next level NBA prospect type player who will also be a really key contributor for this Kentucky team from day one. I think he's going to be Kentucky's best player, and all the other transfers I just mentioned are going to fit around him just perfectly. Number 33, Jaden Shackelford will win SEC Player of the Year. He averaged 14, 4, and 2 last season. Petty, Jones, and Primo are gone for Alabama. A lot of people point to Quinterly as their go-to guy. I actually think Shackelford's the more well-rounded player who's going to take a little bit of a jump. Give me Jaden Shackelford as SEC Player of the Year. Number 34, Tennessee will have a better record this season than they did last year. They finished 18-9 last season. They lose the NBA talents in Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson. Something always struck me as a little bit off about that team last year. Maybe it was a chemistry thing, maybe a little addition by subtraction this year. I like Kennedy Chandler. I love Justin Powell. I think Tennessee makes more sense on paper this season than they do last year. I think they could finish this season upwards of 20 wins and single-digit losses. Number 35, Walker Kessler will make the All-SEC first team. Walker Kessler, the transfer from North Carolina, averaged 18 points, 10 rebounds last season. When he played 20 minutes or more, he did not get an opportunity at North Carolina to play a big role. This season, he's going to assert himself as the best center in the SEC. Number 36, Colin Castleton will win Defensive Player of the Year in this conference. He averaged 2.3 blocks last season in 25 minutes per game. Castleton has the wingspan of a velociraptor. He's just massive. He's smart. He times his blocks really well. I think this year he pushes 30 minutes per game. He's a guy that Florida can't really take off the floor. And ultimately, he'll have to be their best player for Florida to really compete in this conference. Maybe he's not capable of that. Maybe he is. On the defensive end, he definitely is. I think he gets 3 blocks per game or more this season. Number 37, Arkansas will finish outside the top 3 in the SEC conference. I'm down on Arkansas compared to a lot of people. I think they have too much turnover. They lose Moses Moody, who really was fantastic for them last season. Chris Likes is the big guy they're bringing in. He's not Moses Moody. They have a bunch of other really good transfers as well, but they don't make sense to me on paper fit-wise the way Kentucky's do. I think Arkansas will finish at best 4th in the SEC this season. And number 38, 6 teams from this conference will make the NCAA tournament. Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Auburn will all be bona fide NCAA tournament teams. I don't think anybody else outside of that group of 6 will even push to be a bubble team this season. Moving to the Pac-12, number 39, UCLA will be the number 1 overall seed come NCAA tournament time. Miles Johnson, the Rutgers transfer, is going to make a massive impact defensively for this team at center. They're not going to have to play small ball every second anymore. Peyton Watson is a true 5-star that's going to be the most talented player on a team that has talent everywhere. But ultimately, the collection of pieces they bring back will be the biggest reason this team is the best team in the country over the course of the regular season. Number 43 players from UCLA will make the all-conference first team. I'm very confident that Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaquez are going to do that. There's going to be options for the third. It could be Peyton Watson. It honestly could be Miles Johnson. My best bet is that it will be Tiger Campbell, a guy who's averaged upwards of 5 assists per game last season. This year, he could be pushing 6, 7, maybe 8 assists per game with all the talent UCLA has. Like I said, I think they're going to be dominant in the regular season. They will have 3 players on the all-conference team in the Pac-12. Number 41, Oregon will be a top 10 team in March. The one other team in this conference I think can really move the needle is the Ducks. Love what they did in the transfer portal with Davion Harmon, Jacob Young, Quincy Guerrier. They bring in 5-star center Nate Biddle. Will Richardson's the guy who's back from last season. They've got a lot of talent. I really do think the fits make sense. Oregon will push UCLA, but they will not ultimately be able to last and compete. But they will still be a top 10 team in the country, maybe a 2 or a 3 seed come the NCAA tournament. Number 42, Harrison Ingram will win Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. He's going to have to do everything for this Stanford team. Luckily, he's talented enough as both a facilitator and a scorer to do so. If you haven't watched Harrison Ingram, look up some highlights. The kid will be very special in the Pac-12 for Stanford this season. Number 43, only 2 teams from this conference will be top 25 teams over the course of the season. That's UCLA and Oregon. I don't think anybody else will. I think there's a massive drop-off. This is going to be one of the weaker seasons in memory for the Pac-12. A lot of people point to Arizona as a team that could break through. Maybe. They're probably third in my mind, but ultimately UCLA and Oregon are the only 2 teams that matter from this conference. Number 44, Little Brothers will struggle. That's not a Michigan State football joke. That's a reference to both Marcus Bagley and Isaiah Mobley, who have very famous, talented older brothers that are no longer playing in college. These 2 guys good, not great last season, I would say. Sort of expected to take a jump now that a lot of the talent at Arizona State is gone and at USC is gone. I don't think either of them are actually going to be good enough to garner any sort of all-conference honors this season. I think they're going to struggle more than people expect. Let's move to some non-power conference predictions. Number 45, Emoni Bates will score 20 points per game or more this season for Memphis. I don't like that the narrative around Emoni has swung so far in the negative direction. I think he's still going to be a prodigy as far as scoring the basketball goes. He may not be the most efficient guy. He may not be a National Player of the Year, #1 overall pick type, but he is going to be special at the college level and truly one of the only guys in the country you can point to and just say, that guy is absolutely a pro. Number 46, Houston will win the American Conference this season. Marcus Sasser, Tremont Mark, Kyler Edwards. I love that trio. I think it's going to remind people of the Houston trio of guards last season. I think they're the best team here. Everyone's kind of talking about Memphis, even though they're not talking about Emoni Bates. Houston, to me, is the more well-rounded team, the better coach team, the team that will ultimately take home the title in that league. Number 47, KENDRIC Davis from SMU will lead the nation in assists per game. He averaged more than 7 assists last season, along with 19 points. Honestly, a guy that should be getting some All-American love preseason. KENDRIC Davis, to me, could up that even a little bit more, up to 8 or 9 assists per game, have a really special season for a really good SMU team. Number 48, St. Bonaventure will finish this season with 2 losses or less. Last year, they were 16-5. Everybody that matters is back. The biggest name is Kyle Lofton, a guy who can really do it all. I think St. Bonaventure is going to really work their way up into the national conversation this season. They don't have a crazy schedule, couple big games in the non-conference, but ultimately I think they win a few of those and finish the season maybe sort of like St. Joseph's did that one year with Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, where they really worked their way up into 1-seed territory. St. Bonaventure won't ultimately get there, but it wouldn't shock me if that team really goes undefeated or finishes with 1 loss. Number 49, Loyola will beat Michigan State in the battle for Atlantis. New Loyola coach Drew Valentine was on staff at Michigan State. He's one of the rising stars in the coaching world. Loyola brings everybody but Cameron Crutwood back. Lucas Williamson is one of the best defensive players in the country. Braden Norris is going to have an offensive breakout season. That team is going to be hungry, and they're going to catch a Michigan State team that won't look close to what it will come the end of the season. Loyola pulls the upset, if you can even call that an upset, and Drew Valentine gets a milestone win against his former program. Moving to some predictions in the preseason tournaments, Purdue will win the Hall of Fame tip-off is my prediction, number 50. North Carolina, Villanova, Tennessee are the other teams. It's kind of a collection of teams I'm more down on than the rest of the country. Purdue, to me, has the most talent, the most well-rounded group of those 4 teams. They will take home some hardware early in the season. Number 51, Oregon will win the Maui Invitational. It's a quieter Maui Invitational field this season. Oregon's the big draw. They get Chaminade in the first game. The biggest game they might run into could potentially be Houston, maybe a Butler, maybe a Wisconsin. Either way, Oregon's the class of this field. I expect them to sort of run away with this. Maybe they have one scare along the way, but pretty easily take home the Maui Invitational crown. Number 52, Baylor will win the battle for Atlantis. Again, a team that I think just is a little ledge above everybody else in that field. I love this battle for Atlantis field, though. It will be one of the most fun preseason tournaments. Loyola versus MSU, I already spoke to, but you've got Auburn, UConn, Syracuse, VCU, Arizona State. To me, Baylor has the easiest draw, and ultimately will play whoever wins that Loyola-Michigan State game in the championship before Baylor secures the victory. Number 53, Memphis will win the NIT season tip-off. Virginia Tech, Xavier, and Iowa State are the other 3 teams in that one. I would love to see Memphis against Xavier in the championship of that tournament, but Memphis's talent will lead the way. Penny Hardaway will get a big-time statement win in a preseason tournament that will get people talking. Maybe he'll avoid the NIT postseason because he won the NIT preseason tournament. Let's get to some player-specific award predictions. I'm going to run through my next 10 predictions as players I predict will make the All-American teams. Let's start with the second team. Prediction number 54, Jaden Shackelford will be a second-team All-American. Already spoke to how much I love Shackelford's potential this season. He's Alabama's best player. He's going to put up the numbers. Number 55, TYTY Washington, the first of 4 freshmen that you'll hear from me on these 2 teams. TYTY will be the most talented player on a Kentucky team that's going to bring home some regular season hardware. think his numbers will be crazy. He'll have a one-and-done season before being a lottery pick in next year's NBA draft. Number 56, EMONI Bates, the second freshman from Memphis. He's going to score more than 20 points per game. He's going to fill it up. He's going to lead Memphis to some regular season success, probably flame out in March, but he's going to put up the numbers and have the scoring prowess to be a second-team All-American. Number 57, Drew Timme will be a second-team All-American. That's going to surprise people. Gonzaga fans might get on me on that. To me, he's not the National Player of the Year. To me, he's not even the best player in that front court. Ultimately, he's going to be so polished and so productive that he will make the second team, but I don't think he's going to make any sort of jump from where he was last season. In fact, he might take a little step back because of who he's sharing the front court with. Number 58, my last second-team All-American, PAULO Banchero from Duke. A lot of people have this guy as the preseason player of the year. He makes my second team. He's going to be phenomenal, the best player in the ACC. However, I think there's 5 guys that I like just a little more than Banchero as far as on-court production goes. Let's move to the first-team All-Americans. Number 59 for me at guard, Marcus Carr from Texas. He's going to be the best player on that team, on a really good Texas team. I think he's going to really put up some massive points and assist numbers. He's going to be more efficient than he's ever been in his career because of the talent he's playing with. I think Marcus Carr is the guy everybody's sleeping on, that everybody forgets is a bona fide talent that belongs in the conversation of the top 5 players in college basketball. Number 60, Johnny Juzang, UCLA, best player on the best team. Simple. He's going to put up crazy scoring numbers. He might not do a ton defensively, but this UCLA team is going to be so good, they have to have someone on that first team, and Johnny Juzang is the guy. Number 61, Hunter Dickinson. I'm getting a little positionally tough here, but Dickinson's going to be a superstar for Michigan this season. I don't have Hunter Dickinson as my Big Ten Player of the Year, only because there's another Big Ten frontcourt player who's going to make my first-team All-American team that will be a little more deserving, but Hunter Dickinson's going to get some assist numbers this season. He's going to make some threes, and he's still going to be the dominant post scorer that he was for Michigan last year. Number 62, Kofi Cockburn is the guy who will win Big Ten Player of the Year. He's going to win the Big Ten regular season for Illinois. He's going to be the most dominant physical presence in college basketball, double-double machine. He'll be the second best player in college basketball this season and the best player in college basketball season. Prediction number 63, Chet Holmgren will both be a first-team All-American and the National Player of the Year. Chet Holmgren is a unicorn. I can't believe this conversation has flipped to where maybe he's the second or third best player in this class. I think that's absurd. Simply put, there's no one that can do what Chet Holmgren has done on a basketball court. He has the pedigree, the talent, the frame to be an elite shot blocker, an elite scorer, a guy who can handle the ball all over the court. He should be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft next season, and he's going to be such a special college player along the lines of a Kevin Durant or an Anthony Davis for his 1 year in Spokane. My final 5 predictions, postseason team-specific predictions. Number 64, Alabama will miss the Sweet 16. I think Nate Oates is playing with fire a little bit here. Jaden Shackelford and Javon Quinterly are really good, but I don't love the rest of the pieces on this team. I don't think they have a front-court ready player who's going to be dominant. I think his style of play is great. It's very fun to watch, but come March, it leaves you a little bit susceptible. You saw that in the game to UCLA last season in the Sweet 16. Give me Alabama to lose before the Sweet 16 this season. Number 65, Ohio State will get upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. Everybody remembers the Oral Roberts game. Max Abmas, Kevin O'Banner. This season, Ohio State's really going to struggle to me. They might not be the top seed like they were last season. EJ Liddell's going to have to do everything. I don't think they have answers in the backcourt, and I think their defense is going to really struggle. I think this season there could be a top 6 seed maybe, but they are a team that's already on upset alert for me depending on who they draw come March. Number 66, Gonzaga will not make the Final Four. Gonzaga fans, again, want to yell at me. Remember how much I love Chet Holmgren. Please, Gonzaga fans. I don't think this Gonzaga team is close to as good as they were last year, despite having the best player in the country in Chet. I think their backcourt is good, not great. Andrew Nembhard's going to have to do a lot. A lot of people like Nolan Hickman, Hunter Salas. I think there's questions about how college ready he is right now. Look, they have a ton of talent, and they're going to run through that conference. But I don't think this team's going to have the success in March that it had last season. They may make a run to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, but ultimately I think the rest of the top tier of college basketball this season is strong enough to knock Gonzaga off prior to the Final Four. Number 67, my Final Four predictions. I've got Michigan, UCLA, Kansas, and Duke making a Final Four this season. I said this would be a blue blood resurgence. I'm backing that up with UCLA, Kansas, and Duke all making the Final Four, along with the Michigan Wolverines. And number 68, my national championship prediction. I'm taking Kansas to defeat Duke. The narrative will be Coach K's final game, his final run at this. Can he really pull off the magical finish to a storybook career? And ultimately, Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks, with just a little bit more solid roster top to bottom, will play spoiler to the magical fairy tale of Coach K's retirement championship. Give me the Jayhawks to win the national title. I cannot wait for this college basketball season to begin. Like, follow, subscribe, Sleepers Media for more content like this throughout the season. Thank you all for watching. Can't wait to get this started.